So welcome to introductory class to Akashic Records. I actually only this year last year started doing introductory classes because it used to be just you go in, you learn about Akashic Records, you learn how to get in, you learn all the techniques, but there was no kind of like, what are the Akashic Records? So, no, actually 2 years ago I started doing that. I've been doing Akashic Records for 22 years now. What is it?
I had a dream about my father having my Akashic Records in his hands, and you just said 22 years. He was born in 1922.
Oh, wow.
So I guess I meant to be here.
Yeah.
I don't usually go out and do much of anything, but I thought, okay, let's go and do it.
Welcome, and welcome people who are on a Zoom. I think we have a few people joining us and saying hi.
They are saying hi.
So this is a class in Winnipeg, Canada, 2019. And before I even start, any questions for me? And what are your expectations of this class? There are microphones. You can use them so people on Zoom can hear, and we can get it on the recorder. What would you like to get from this 2 hours of introductory class?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, we need to turn it on.
Hi there,
Hi.
I'm Becky. Hi. I have heard of the Akash and even have wondered if I've been tuning into it myself before. So I would like to hear as much as you can give us in 2 hours about your experience with it, where you see it located. Is it in the body? Is it in an external place? And I guess the benefits of being able to go in and the work that you do and how you see it being beneficial to healing.
Sure. Perfect.
I second what Becky said. I'm Mercy, and my 2 friends and I, we studied Linda Howell, her book, and we had book club, and we've gone into the records and reading, and so just to have more understanding and a new perspective, and a different perspective on how it could be used would be, would be awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else?
We have Judy would like to learn the value of Akashic Records with respect to my growth and my living.
Wonderful.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you. Welcome. So I'll start a little bit about my own history. I'm Helen Gitlevich, and I'm a medical doctor. I was born in Russia, as some of you asked me. I left Russia. Actually, my mom left Russia when I was 17. We actually started immigration process when I was in the 8th grade, but it took a few years to get out because it was still evil empire, as Reagan called it, with the Iron Curtain, and nobody could get out unless you're pretty much a refugee. And that's what we were, with no country, with nothing. We came to America, and I went to college, medical school, become a family practitioner. But I always was searching. I always was looking for something. I had an out-of-body experience when I was 6 years old. I had open heart surgery where I left my body and kind of was all over. I didn't know that's what it was. I just know I was there. And I remember coming to my body, and it was raining outside. There was kind of thunderstorms. And I remember it was such a peaceful feeling that you'll be okay. And I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't think much, but I always was searching for that feeling, for that oneness, I would call it now. As a child, there was no definition. And years back, I was doing yoga, I was doing meditation, and sometimes in meditation, I would get to that almost the same feeling. I've studied creative visualization, many modalities. And then I was doing some Women Within work, which actually came from Canada, and I was working with a facilitator there, and she suggested I would go and get my Akashic Records read. Actually, she said consultation. To me, it was, okay, I'm going to a psychic. She's going to tell me what to do, because I was going through a tough time with my marriage. And I came to Elena Lieberman. She didn't tell me what to do. She said, it's your choice. So we worked with a lot of questions and a lot of prayer. Well, at that school, there was 3 prayers that we worked with, and 13 different grace points, which is points on the hand. I didn't get answers, but I felt much better. A lot of things got shifted. We looked at what was creating stuff in my life, and we were working a lot with forgiveness. She suggested I would take a class. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll take a class. I was taking everything. The same weekend, I was taking trance dance, yoga retreat, breath work, and Akashic Records 2 days. I mean, I was looking for something greater. And actually, during consultation, she told me I would be teaching something like that. And I'm like, yeah, right. I had a busy practice. My daughter was 95 years old. So yeah, I'll drop my practice and go teach energy work. Psychic, actually. To me, it was kind of still psychic. Because I'm like, I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not a psychic. She's like, but you can learn that. So I went for the class. It was a weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And the very first time when I used the prayer to open the records, that was exactly what I felt in that moment when I was 6 years old. That oneness, that love, that total gratitude. And I'm like, oh wow, I'm home. That was exactly what I was feeling, that I was home. But there was an interesting twist there, because I didn't believe in Akashic Records. I grew up in a society where there was no God. There was no, it was an atheistic society. Basically, there is nothing except this physical world. But I always knew there was something more. So kind of like that duality was pulling me apart. Right before my class, I was overwhelmed with my practice and I was about to sell it. And I had a contract, everything, but you know how choice creates and solidifies future? That was exactly that. They asked me to bring the contract on Friday morning. Being kind of like me, you tell me what to do, I'll do the opposite. So I went and did not give them the contract. I said, I'll read about it, I'll read through that, maybe show a friend, and then Monday I'll bring it. Saturday, Sunday was workshop. At the end of the workshop, there was one exercise where you ask, we don't do it anymore, but at that time, to prove that you're in the records, you go through the exercise. And 6 people were supposed to kind of look at what is there for you. You ask the same question, 6 people. Of course, with what I ask, I would check if the records are legitimate. So I asked, will I sell my practice? I know for sure I'm selling it, right? And the first one, no, don't see the sale. Second one, no, but even if you sign some kind of papers, it will be a disaster. Every single one of the 6 told me no, no sale. I'm like, okay, this is all bullshit. It ain't working. I'm going home. I think I left about an hour before the class ended. I got my certificate that I completed the work. But I'm like, I'm not doing it ever again because it's just imagination. It's not real. Monday comes along, bringing the papers, no sale. They were bought on Friday afternoon.
Wow.
So everything is frozen. But what's more, it would have been a disaster if I sold it. I didn't listen, I signed the papers. I ended up with a huge loan because they ended up bankrupt and the whole thing. So of course, a few months later, I'm like, okay, where is that class? So that's when I started getting more serious about Akashic Records. And one of your questions was, is Akashic Records somewhere in the body, or where is that, or outside? It's not outside. It's pretty much who you are, what you are. The space of Akashic Records is a space of heart, but it's not physical heart, and that space is infinite. It's pretty much all the information that the universe has, but it's more. It's consciousness. It includes everything. Every infinite possibility of past, present, future, all kinds of thoughts, like all your possibilities of thoughts, feelings, and emotions, all your possibilities of action, inaction, what you could not have done. It's that quantum mechanics, and there is no time. That's another thing. Because it's all simultaneous. All the past, present, and future are simultaneous. And all that information is actually written in your DNA, RNA, kind of like, it's actually even below that. It's not on molecular level, it's on energy level. And we do access it. That's why I say it felt like going home. Because we've been there and we're always there. What prevents us from going there and having it all the time is the points of view, blocks, limitation, all the implants that we put in our body, in our mind, not to go there. Sometimes it could be contracts, sometimes it could be some past experiences. There is so many reasons, but the main one, we have it open to us. I know some of you are in access consciousness. Access, pretty much, it's Akashic field. It's infinite possibility. It's consciousness. It's just different way of accessing it. There is different levels of functioning, let's say, with Akashic field being the consciousness, the energy, infinite possibility, infinite everything. The physical world, which is solid, which was created by our choices. And then in between, as I call it a psychic world or buffer zone. Pretty much in Akashic field, there is no polarity. There is no judgment, or even if there is no judgment about judgment. It's pretty much total allowance for anything. In our physical world, there is a polarity. So is a buffer zone. Buffer zone is where the angels, the demons, the entities, it's not physical, but it's not Akashic field yet. It's already formed. Like every choice we make here comes down from Akashic field in the form of energy, but it's already energy is a little bit more solid. And that solidity creates that buffer zone where there is one possibility of whatever it is. And a lot of psychics work in that area. That's why they can tell you the future, which is, oh, you'll have this and this and this. Does it mean that it will be? Not necessarily. It's in that millisecond, your choices, that kind of like the sum of your choices, sum of your points of view, created that possibility. If you don't choose something else, it will be exactly like she said or he said. More than that, if you buy that, if you kind of believe what the psychic said, and a lot of people do, they start creating it. That's why a lot of religions kind of like dissuade you from going to psychics. And I actually haven't gone to psychic in quite a while because I don't want another point of view in my head. I have enough of my own. So the idea working with Akashic Records is look at what is blocked, because that's where the karma is. All those past action, inaction, all the decisions, they kind of solidified our future. And almost like tracks. Think of it as when a house is being built, you have a blueprint, right? And then part of the house is built. So that's kind of like what Akashic Records look like, because with certain things you already built half of the house. And half of the house are just blueprints yet. And yet it's not solid, just like a house. It's still fluid. You see it as a solid structure, but it's not. So with tools, with access or with Akashic Records, you can demolish that portion and start new. And that's what Akashic Records do with the prayers or grace points. You look at something, you might know what it is, or you might just get energetic awareness. And then you ask, how can I clear that? Kind of like you get an awareness, okay, it might be forgiveness, it might be clearing contracts, it might be release the ties that bind you, or it might be forgiveness for the union. There is like, I think about 12 or 13 prayers, and right now 14 grace points. And that's what we'll be playing today. With, I'm going to give, okay, I'm getting the microphone without the cord, but it's not here yet. It's coming. Okay, I'm going to put it here. And so there you can pass it around. It's a forgiveness prayer. And I'll wait until you send it online.
Oh, yeah, right.
Guys.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Most people. Well, maybe they don't need forgiveness. No, they already forgiven everybody and
That's
everything.
right, that's right.
Before we go there, I would like to talk a little bit about forgiveness.
Thank you.
Because a lot of people have a lot of points of view about that and resistance. How can I forgive somebody for what they've done? How can it's unforgivable. I started kind of like understanding more forgiveness when I heard an expression. When you hate somebody or you're not forgiving somebody, it's like you're taking a poison and thinking the other person will die. Works very well, right? That's what lack of forgiveness is. Pretty much, we go in circles about what they did to us, or the other side of the coin, what we did to them. It could be forgive, because this prayer has three parts. Forgiving others for what they did to us, forgiving ourselves for doing something to others, and the main one where people have the biggest problem, forgiving ourselves when we hurt ourselves. Because how many times did we hurt ourselves and we're still mad at ourselves? How could I do that? All of that is creating illnesses in the body. All of that creating problems with money flow. All of that creating problems with relationships. Every area of our lives being affected by all those points of view we have about other people, about ourselves, how deserving, undeserving we are based on what we've done, or what was done to us, or what was told that we did. Because not necessarily even we did something.
It could be perception.
It could be perception. And I'm like, I never did that. Oh, yes, you did.
Yeah.
How many times you've heard that? Oh, yes, both arms. Legs too. And this is about, and a lot of people say, but it's so hard to forgive, and it is. When we are trying to do it ourselves, okay, you should forgive this person. Yeah, right, good luck. It doesn't work that way. With the tools of Akashic Records, you're actually not forgiving and allowing them to do it over again to you. Or you're forgiving yourself for hurting them and then you do it over again. No. What that is clearing that energy that's stuck, that guilt, that shame and blame. And this is not about letting them do it again. This is not about being doormat. This is about allowing the forgiveness of the universe to flow through you and cleanse it. So think of somebody or something that you cannot forgive, that you're upset about. And let's read it together. No intention of forgiving, just think of that, whatever is stuck. And we'll do it together. I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have done, been, seen, heard, to anyone or anything, consciously or unconsciously, in any time, space, dimension, or reality. I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have experienced that was done, been, seen, heard to me by anyone or anything, consciously or unconsciously, in any time, space, dimension, or reality. I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have done, been, seen, and heard to me, by me, consciously or unconsciously, in any time, space, dimension, or reality. How does your body feel?
I could take a deep breath.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, in Akashic
Take a deep
Records, we
breath.
look at multiple things. We look at how our body feels. Where is our mind? Do we have any thoughts right now? Or is it just a little bit clearer?
I feel open.
Yeah.
I feel, yeah. You know what? I felt discomfort. I felt a clenching, specifically right here.
When you were reading, right? How about now?
It's still there.
It's still there. Let's do it again.
It's a few times.
Yeah, because a lot of time the energy comes up,
Mhm.
and yes, at first it's like, ugh. And it takes sometimes a few times to shift. And let's see. And it might be, we might need to go to a different prayer, which I didn't print this time, but we can always get it off the internet. I can read it for you and then I'll send it to you in email. So let's do forgiveness. Let's do forgiveness. One of the recommendations is to read it anywhere from 9 to 33 times in the morning and at night for 30 days. Without even thinking of anybody. Just like in Access the Mantra, all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. So are the prayers. They are vibrational frequencies. Big time. Yep. And so in order to clear ourselves, so we can choose this voice, it's what it does, it clears that energy layer by layer. From the body, from the being, from the soul. We talk a lot about the soul because the records portion of the Akashic field is actually the record of the soul. And
one lifetime or
all of lifetimes and all the possible lifetimes that you don't even know about.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's infinite possibility of past lives, future lives, and
Oh, yeah, that's right. Future too.
Future too. And what's interesting, I was working a few times, but the first time when it actually happened was a few years ago. I was working with a young, I say kid, but 22-year-old. And we were looking at the contracts. There was a lot in the past, and we were clearing contracts. And there was one contract that wasn't clearing. And I'm like, okay, so where is that contract? In the past, there was a future, and we got the future. And it was kind of like, it doesn't make any sense. But it was like exact, and he's like, uh-huh. And he's like, it doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. Past, present, and future, it's not linear. It's all simultaneous. That's why a lot of times we stick our contracts, we stick our solid shit, excuse my French, in such a places so we don't have access to it to clear. Because we don't even realize that it's in the future. Like when you start working deeply in the records, you realize there are infinite possibilities of hiding the limitations. And so are the infinite possibilities of creating the future and creating the past. We can clear the past by that changing the future. We can clear the future, and by that we're changing the past. It does not make logical sense. Absolutely not. Don't even try. Because I remember I tried. I got such a splitting headache. And I couldn't sleep after that. And I was actually working in the records, trying to figure it out in the records. And they're like, good luck with that. Any questions so far?
So Judy. So Judy is saying, I am more awakened after the forgiveness reading the prayer 30 times a day for 30 days. Yeah. And Tammy's saying, well, thank you.
Thanks. So let's read it again. And a lot of times when we work together, it's exponentialized. It's not like coming into 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 people. It's like 12 times 12 times 12 times 12. Especially if people are choosing to create more consciousness. So I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have done, been, seen, heard, to anyone or anything, consciously or unconsciously,
in any time, space, dimension, or reality. I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have experienced that was done, been, seen, heard to me by anyone or anything, consciously or unconsciously, in any time, space, dimension, or reality. I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have done, been, seen, and heard to me, by me, consciously or unconsciously, in any time, space, dimension, or reality.
How does that go?
It's still there. And I think it just points to, I know there's aspects of me that are extremely hard on myself. And this would push those buttons.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
It will pull that up.
It would pull it up and it would bring it to the surface. Eventually, the more you allow yourself, I'm actually getting to use a grace point, which is a point right here, one of them. It's emotional trigger release. And you can use them together with the prayers or separate. Other hand, whichever feels stronger. And you don't have to push. It's just a light touch. If you're familiar with bars, pretty much just the same way, just a light touch on the point. And just allow yourself just to hold it. Yep. Let's do it together with a prayer. I allow, and let's do it slower a little bit. Kind of like reading every word. I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have done, been, seen, heard, to anyone or anything, consciously or unconsciously, in any time, space, dimension, or reality. I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have experienced that was done, been, seen, heard to me by anyone or anything, consciously or unconsciously, in any time, space, dimension, or reality. I allow the forgiveness of the universe to flow through me, to cleanse me from anything that I have done, been, seen, and heard to me, by me, consciously or unconsciously, in any time, space, dimension, or reality.
Can you explain the point again for the people online?
Okay, so the point is right here, and they're called grace points, meaning that it's a release point. This one is emotional trigger release. There is different point systems. I probably should have explained a little bit how I started. I started with a school of Akashic Records Consultant International called ARCI, ARCI. And that school been around since, I believe, 80s. I think it was opened by Mary Parker, either 87 or 88. And there was a prayer that was, Mary Parker studied with John Prochaska, got the prayer, got the first three prayers of forgiveness, releasing entities, and releasing contracts. Within that school at Comni, channeled 13 points on the palm of the hand, grace points. Like the main grace point is actually where we do energy pulls. It's one of the minor chakra. So there is a lot of things connected to the main grace point. But the grace points are related, but not quite related to meridians and chakras and everything else. They are independent of that. They can affect the meridians. This is not an acupressure point, though some of them might coincide with a position. This is not about using needles, pressure, or anything. This is energetic centers that clears from the body, from the soul, whatever required to clear. Each point has its own name associated with that and has a certain, I wouldn't say purpose, but it clears certain issues. Saying that, a lot of times things are connected, interconnected, and twisted to the point that sometimes a grace point of fear, we found out, actually works on allergies.
Where's that one?
Right here.
The pinky.
Between the pinky and kind of like in that,
In the knuckle bed, right?
yeah.
Does it matter which hand?
One probably a little bit stronger than the other, but they both in both hands. It's whatever you're drawn to and whatever feels easier and comfortable. And so it can help. It doesn't mean that every allergy is connected to the fear, but certain allergies are. So during the basic class, you pretty much start learning. And I know I'm jumping because there is so much information I would like to give. And I'm OCD, ADD, and ADHD, all of those, and autistic, so I jump. It's shiny ball. So as I said, there is multiple prayers and multiple grace points, and they keep coming. So I started with Arki, where it had 13 grace points and 3 prayers, and then there were another 2 added, morning and evening prayers. That's where I got certified as a teacher. I kind of was stubborn, and it took them convincing to get me to be. First of all, I was practicing medicine still, don't forget. Until I ended up with open heart surgery. They kind of were telling me, the records were like, maybe you'll quit medicine and start doing this full time. And I'm like, no. Well, actually, no, I would say, yeah, I know, I like it. Yeah, I probably should quit medicine, but. Microphone.
Here.
But the Akashic Records, okay, so you get this information.
Yes.
You just have to press the button.
Push it?
Yeah.
So you get this information, right? So years ago, I wanted to sing, and I still do. I'm always with a band that just seems to follow me around. But years ago, a psychic said to me, no, you're going to write a book. That's going to be your big thing, not music. I was devastated. I said, I don't care about books. I don't want to write a book. But she goes, but that's what you're good at. That's what you're really good at. And I thought, no, I'm not. Like I was fighting it, and it took years. It took another 15 years, and I've just completed the book.
Yeah,
I know, but that's how long things take time sometimes, because you're fighting it,
or life's busy or whatever. But I guess it was part of my own journey. Yeah.
It's a journey, and it's not a wrongness.
No,
No.
but that's, sometimes we think we know ourselves, but do we?
Exactly.
Do we?
We actually do.
We think we do, but then you're going, wait a minute, why did I do that?
Closer,
Right?
closer, microphone closer.
Oh, closer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But that's just, yeah.
Exactly,
Right.
because we resist the react, and especially to something that innately ours, something that we're good at, we ignore and dismiss.
I have one other quick story. I'm
Yeah.
on a roll here. So I had a dream
Mhm.
about my father, like I was telling you
Yeah.
earlier. My father's passed away. He wasn't a very spiritual man, but he was a good man. Okay, so anyway, long story short, in the dream, he's in a monk's robe with the cord, the whole bit, right? I'm going, really, Dad? And he's holding this book, and he could hardly get his arms around it. And it was a big brown book. It looked like something out of Harry Potter. And I'm going, right? And I'm going, what is that? What do you have in your hands? In the dream, I'm asking him this. He says, those are your Akashic records.
Wow.
And I went, well, okay. So he says, you've got some work to do. So it's going to get a little difficult for you for a while. And I'm thinking, didn't I just go through difficult? I have to do more difficult now. And it got more difficult, more responsibility, tedious. Things were like I was getting tested left, right, and center and sideways, getting batted around, and I'm going, really? Having said all that, it's made me a better person. I've learned to flow with life more instead of, fight it. And I've learned a great deal. And now I feel way more at peace than I ever have. So that's my journey. I guess it's my journey to get whatever, right,
Yeah.
that I've been through. But so that's why I was so compelled to come here, because I thought I had a dream. The other part of the story, quickly, is my brother, who's autistic. I never told anyone about my dream. We're driving in the car. I'm picking him up from Selkirk, from the Institute. He's sitting beside me, and he doesn't talk much about my dad that passed away. He goes, do you ever think about Dad, Gina? I said, yes, I do, every day, Tom. He goes, well, he's staring at you right now. And I'm going, okay. I said, where is he? He said, he's on the other side of the glass, of the windshield. And I said, okay. So something said, ask him what he's wearing. I said, Tom, what's Dad wearing? He's wearing a brown robe. I almost went off the highway.
I can imagine.
I told no one this.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills just talking about
Yeah,
it.
I get chills too.
Yeah, so it makes you think, right? You are not alone. Far from it. You are being guided. I've got many stories about that, but I won't take over your,
No, I really appreciate it.
But never give up hope on anything,
No.
especially yourself. Ever, ever, ever.
Exactly.
Because there's a reason for everything, and it will build you into the person you actually want to be before you came here.
Exactly. Because it's
Judy has a question for you.
it's a journey, and it's the choices that we make, and they will never interfere. Yeah, I'll get to that. Because it's like one of the laws of the universe is a free will for us. They will never, ever, ever interfere with the free will and our choice. They might guide us. They might tell us, oh, it might be good. Maybe you'll do that. But it's still up to us to choose. That's the difference between conscious beings, which is, Akashic Records is not even beings anymore. It's just a matrix of consciousness. It's us, it's our own knowing. And yes, we call them guides, masters, teachers, but they don't have names. And they're not like people or entities anymore. They're way past that. It's just pretty much consciousness. Okay.
So Judy and Purnima do you want me to?
Yeah.
I'll flip it around and I'll mute each of them first. So this is Judy.
So, do you want me to say my question?
Perfect.
I'm just wondering how I would use Akashic Records to clear something or someone.
It depends on what's going on. Because with Akashic Records, as I said, a lot of times things stuck in the past or the future. And you look at that, depending on the issue, it could be either releasing outside influences, because it might not be even yours, because we pick up other people's stuff. It might be fitness.
Okay. And can we use it to clear someone? Like I would like to, if I could use this at all with my son, I'd really like that. That'd be super.
I wish it would clear someone. But no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm so bad.
We can clear ourselves, and by that we can clear
Okay.
other people, but we cannot clear
Okay.
other people. Remember I said they will never interfere with the free will?
Yeah.
Clearing another person is interfering with their free will.
Okay. And the other prayers, like what are they, like this one is forgiveness. What are some of the other ones about?
I don't even remember all of them, and I channeled them.
Yeah, cool.
Clearing energy of the past, releasing old contracts, by mistake I took a translated manual. So I have to translate it back. And this is not the updated one. Our value, embracing everything we are, prayer for the universe, creation of life, and there's a couple more that came in which I don't remember. I think it's forgiveness of for Earth and something else. And there's another great point that I don't remember either. It's 13 in here. I can show you like a little picture. And on this picture, it's not even all of them.
No.
So, I guess I jumped without like explaining because, as I said, I've been certified by Arki, but at a certain point, I felt that school was contracting. It wasn't growing. Maybe it was my judgment or whatever, and quite a few teachers, including Lisa Barnett, you probably read her book. She's another teacher. She's like, guys, I'm opening my school. Are you going with me? How are you staying? And 6 teachers kind of like, including me. Even before that, and at that time, I was told to open my school. But I'm like, no. And so I left with Lisa, and I taught at her school for 3 years. And then at a certain point, they were very insistent, and I, again, started a little bit getting contracted at her school. Because, again, there started to be a form and a structure. And, like, even in the old school, I could do much more than in the new school. And I'm like, and there was a funny story about that because they insisted for a couple of months, they already dictated me the opening prayer because the way you go into the records is a prayer which is vibrational frequency, which kind of like opens. And different schools have different prayers. So they dictated me the prayer, how to open, and they actually dictated half the manual. And I'm like, we'll give you all the information, just call Lisa. And that was, I think they started talking in December 2016, 15. By February, they were very insistent. You have to call. If you're choosing to open your school, you have to call now. And I'm like, okay, tomorrow. tomorrow, tomorrow. And then one day, like, they were very insistent, like, today is the day, kind of.
It's funny how you feel that day. You
Yeah.
just know. It's very weird.
It's weird, but you know. And I still waited till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I called Lisa, and I'm like, Lisa, I just got a message from the master for the last 6 months to open my school. And I'm sorry, I'm leaving. She understood. She's like, okay, of course. I'll refund you the membership fee that I charged this morning. Every year, like, to teach at her school, there are membership fees. And that was the day when it was
Wow.
renewal.
Mhm. Good timing.
Yeah, and I'm like, what do you mean? At first I'm like, I couldn't. And she's like, isn't that why you're calling me? I'm like, I have no idea. Masters were kicking my butt to call you. I just started laughing.
Someone knew.
Yeah, someone knew.
Someone was on it.
Yeah,
Are you saying the
not
master?
Microsoft.
I'm just curious.
I'm just curious who you work with. Did you say the masters were telling you? Is
Uh,
that
I called, like, it's kind of like the definition from the old school. They called masters, teachers, and loved ones, kind of like, that was a generic name. And I kind of still do, but in reality, there is no names. It's just like guides, not quite, masters, not quite. It's a matrix of life. And they don't care how we call them. It's not about masters that you serve, by no means, no. It's just like masters in a sense, they are masters of what they're doing. And like master of science, master of that.
Do they come through like I always called mine my little voice?
Yeah.
And you just choose to listen to it or you don't.
Exactly. And it's very soft and very quiet.
And all
The ego is much louder.
Yeah. And the one time that I didn't listen to it, I broke my leg in half.
Yeah.
So I started listening to it.
Yeah, well, I had open heart surgery.
Yeah.
I broke my ankle.
Yeah.
So there's a question here that says, I hear that we cannot read Akashic Records for our spouse. Is that true?
You cannot just go and read anybody's records without their permission. It's one of the guidelines, rules, call it whatever you want. But it's non-ethical to open somebody else's records without their permission. And there is a whole list of like certain guidelines to make it safe for people. You can look at information for your spouse in your own records. Whatever is relevant to you will be given. But everything is confidential. Confidentiality in the records is beyond the medical field. You sign the HIPAA there and you're stuck.
So she's wondering if I have permission, is that okay?
Oh yeah, that's fine. With permission, you can open anybody's records except kids. Kids, it used to be under age of 18. You don't open their records just because their life is not fixed yet. And they cannot learn that. I mean, they shouldn't. Now, because the kids are so precautious, I've had kids in the class, 16-year-old in the class, and I had a reading for a 14-year-old. But with the 14-year-old, the parent was present. But she was the one that wanted the reading. So, and that's what you learn in the basic one. You learn how to open. It's pretty much instructional class. And I know a lot of people feel it's not as much fun as the second one, but you need to learn the alphabet. So you start learning your basic grace points, basic prayers, and how to open the records. We do a lot of meditation, and there is a kind of like preparatory work. You don't just jump and open the records, because your body has to be ready to receive it. Your mind has to be in a certain kind of vibrational frequency. So we start raising it and slowly build up to opening the records. And depending on the group, it could be half a day, and sometimes by the end of the first day, we only get to the records. Nowadays, in the old days, it was the second day when we just open the records. So, and you work with them, you look at, and even in the first one, you work with your own records. The same prayer opens yours or somebody else's. I have people who couldn't get to the advanced class, and they still work with other people. Because we talk a little bit, we don't practice how to work with other people in the first level. It's too much information. It's like we barely get through the manual in 2 days. And I've been kind of like getting, it might turn into 3 days. Just because in the beginning, the 2 days, there was only like 5 grace points and I think 5 prayers. Because they've been adding more and more as we go along. Each class changes the manual. Like I can show this is a translated manual, but it's how many pages? 57 pages. It started with 25.
Oh.
So any other question before we break for a little bit?
So how did my father know about mine on the other side? Oh, thanks. How did my, okay.
Just
Like
takes a
the
couple
light up, when the
seconds.
light's on, it's on.
Takes a couple seconds.
How did, oh, that's what it was, thank you. How did my father from the other side know that those are my, like, so he knew it was in there,
Yeah.
and he knew it was coming. He knew the future, and he's prepping me for this. So are you allowed to do that if you're on the other side?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because he had carte blanche. He seemed to know what he was doing.
Yeah, and a lot of people who work in the records, they actually work in the records without the bodies.
Okay.
Because our souls, our beings, it doesn't matter if we are in a body or not. We still have the same access, if not more, after we leave this body.
Because he said to me, he says, for you to get where you want to go, he knew where I wanted to go. He says, you got some work to do. I'm like, no. But he knew.
I hate when I hear that.
He knew, right? And he says, but then once you do a little bit of that work, you're going to be in your sweet spot. You're going to be happy. And you're going to, and everything will just flow. And he says, you're close to it, and it will be trying. He said, it's going to be difficult. You're going to be going, really? And I've said it many, many, many times. So interesting. I just wanted to clarify. Is it on? I don't know.
Yeah, usually if there's like a blue light there.
There's a little bit.
Yeah.
I do energy work through massage therapy and connect and stuff. And one instance when you mentioned the book, I remember working on somebody and seeing this massive brown leather bound book. Yeah, it was.
It's huge.
And I even used the Harry Potter.
Oh,
thing,
I know that.
But I've never seen Harry Potter. I've never watched the movies.
Okay.
Okay, but I just thought it would be something like that. And it was massive, and it was on a table, and I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And then I asked my little voice, like, what is this? And I get Akashic Records, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think I've heard that word before. I didn't know really what it was, but is that how it's presented? Like, why is...
It varies. It varies. It's one of the books, because Akashic Records are infinite.
Or what?
Infinite.
Oh.
It's infinite. And I'm talking about each person is infinite. You probably saw just one book that was relevant to that person, to that moment, to that issue that you were working on that muscle.
Kind of like a chapter of that.
Yeah.
That there's a
Not
lot
even
of
a chapter,
different
probably
chapters.
one page.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, boy.
It's funny because sometimes people come in for consultation and it's like, and a lot of times they challenge. It's like, tell me about me. And I'm like, really? What do you want to know? Because it's like going to Library of Congress.
Right.
Give me a book.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, which book do you want? Okay, about life. That's pretty much what it is.
Right, right.
And the way we work in the records is through questions. It's kind of like looking for an answer, but it's not quite looking for an answer. It's like, I remember my first class, and it's like, you don't look for an answer. You wait for the answer to come in.
Yeah.
And then, because questions pop into my head all the time when I'm working on somebody,
Yeah.
depending on what they're going through in their life or whatever, I start to work and I'll either see something happening, like a video, or I'll feel an emotion, or I'm not even sure, there's a conversation going on in my head. I'm asking questions that, and then I'll get an answer possibly, and then I have to ask them a question. Are you currently going through this? Are you, and I have to kind of interpret feelings and emotions to try and get through to what they're experiencing. But most of the time, the interpretation, I might not be doing it as well, but we seem to kind of get to that point eventually through the right questions.
It might be working in the records or in the buffer zone, because buffer zone is also a lot of awarenesses there, but it's more solid. And some people do work in that zone, and it's not a wrongness. It's just the information that may be relevant to that person is in that area that needs to come through. That's why if it's emotions, my guess is probably the buffer zone. Because in Akashic Records, there are no emotions. There are no thoughts. There are no feelings. It's already past that. And it's very important when we work in the records not to interpret. For ourselves or others. You just tell them what it is, word for word that you got, or the image that you got, or the color you got, because, or the sound. It comes such a different way. I had a girl that I don't see anything, so what did you see? Oh, I saw purple and red in this. And then when I was asking her questions, she's like, yeah, red means this, blue means she's actually an artist, so she works with colors. So for her, Akashic Records were colors.
Well, I get that all the time where I'll get this saying that comes in my head and I'm like, I'm not saying that. And they'll say it. And for the next 5 minutes, I wrestle with my own, because it's been quiet the whole time. If I say something, they might jump out of their skin and wake up. Like, we're in a good zone here. I'm not saying that. And then eventually, okay, they'll just not shut up until I say it, and then all of a sudden it stops telling me to say it. So, but yeah, it's kind of like you just, if they tell you to say it, you just say it.
Yeah, you just say it. And sometimes it's such a bizarre thing. I never forget, there was one case where I got a sentence. It was actually in Russian. I was working with a Russian guy. And I'm like, what does it mean? And they're like, no, just tell him that. And I'm like, I don't get what you're saying, because each word made sense. But together it was like white horse, black rider, or something like that.
Okay. Cryptic.
Huh? Cryptic. And I'm like, I have no idea what they mean. So I'm like, you know what? I have no idea what it means, but that's what I'm hearing.
Right.
He almost fell off the chair.
I believe that. It meant something to him.
It meant something to him. And he's like, I say it all the time. And he explained to me what it meant.
Wow.
So it's bizarre. It's amazing. And to me, it helps so much in any work I Now I realize that it actually helped me in medicine because I worked in the records at least, let's see, 97, and then my surgery was 2001. So at least 4 years. I was in the records, still practicing medicine in my office. And there were moments where somebody comes in with a sore throat, and suddenly I'm like, do you mind? And what was your last gynecological exam? And pretty much she would be on the table. She was on the table, on surgical table that night because she had ovarian cancer.
Oh my God.
But it was already too late. So, or somebody came in with something else, and I'm like, what's going on with your breast? She's like, I don't know, I have a lump. And that was actually good. It was early detection. She was my patient. The other one was not. She was just came in, I was covering for somebody else. So they do, like you said, they give you the messages. And a lot of times we have, so Akashic Records is not something new. We worked in there. It comes in dreams. It comes in meditation. A lot of people spontaneously get information. The classes and the prayers are just to get you more cognitive and more at will. Not just spontaneous, like whenever, but it's always kind of like the prayer will get you there. It's an instant. You say the prayer a certain way, and you're in the records. You close it. There is a little disclaimer. Once you open the records with a prayer, you never leave. Even when you close it, it's still a little bit open. And eventually, the more you work in the records, eventually you would not need the prayer to open the records. And of course, there are other ways of getting in. Clearing statement with access consciousness, doing symphony sessions. That's definitely there, Akashic Records area. So I remember actually facilitating a class or teaching a class in Guatemala. And do you remember Taz? So the first time when she actually flew from Canada to take the class in Guatemala. Because I said, you can take it online. She's like, nope, I'm flying. Wow. So when we opened, she says, oh, it's maestro energy. And so there is different ways of getting there.
So when you see illness in someone, that's Akashic Records?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, because I've seen that in people as well.
It could be medical intuitive, it could be clairvoyant, there's so many things how we see it.
So what exactly, I can't wrap my head, when you say records, what do you mean? So, okay, you got psychic, you got intuitive, you've got whatever. So what differentiates psychic?
Certain psychics work in Akashic Records.
Okay.
Certain intuitive work in Akashic Records.
Okay.
The difference is it's much lighter energy.
Oh.
It's much higher vibration energy.
The Akashic is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because some psychic, like there is a definition, and there are also Akashic Records consultants that work in the psychic level.
Okay.
Certain schools are actually not in the records, but they claim they are.
Okay.
So it's like Linda House is definitely working in the records. Lisa Burnett, Archie, those schools are definitely working with the records. And then there is certain schools, I'm not going to say which ones, that they do work in the psychic level, and yet some of their students still manage to get to the records. So it's just a vibration.
Okay.
And it's not, Akashic field is bigger than the records. Records are just books.
Okay.
I guess my school a little bit different that we're working not just on the records, but in the whole field. of possibilities because it's called Akashic School of Creation. So we actually, the first, as I said, you learn how to get the information. In a second, you start creating your life based on that. Using the energy of the records, you're looking which way, how to, and that's what we learned in second class.
When I was writing the book, and I'm not a writer, you got it next. I'm not a, I'm not a writer, but I would ask for help.
Yeah.
Because I never took a writing class. I have ideas, but I have no clue how to write.
Yep.
That's why it took 10 years. Anyway, but so I would ask, and then the exact right word would come up.
Yep.
And I'm going, I don't even know what that word means. I have to look it up sometimes. That freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah,
But
that's the records.
is that the records? Because
That's the field.
this is
Field and the records.
okay. Okay, so I'm starting to wrap my head around it.
Yeah. I painted with the records open.
What's that?
I painted because
Okay.
before I went to kind of like teaching, I did associated fine arts after my surgery. So I started painting, and like in my old school, there was actual class. It was called level 3, where you use Akashic Record for creativity, writing books, painting, sculpture. And because pretty much all the great books, all the great music was pretty much done through the Akashic field.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of it's just
It's
you can't
beyond
even-
this reality.
It's beyond comprehension,
yeah.
or they, yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of like one of the ways of using the records is creation. The way to use the records is, it's not just like to get the information and get you cleared. There is so much more about the Akashic field. And that's what people don't even realize that. I use a lot of times Akashic Record for facilitating classes, access classes, like for the body class. A lot of times I open the records of the class and just facilitate. I can see where the energy needs to go. For you guys who are coming, you'll experience that a little bit.
I'm a little scared there. No, bring it.
Scared or excited?
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
So then is it fair to say that somebody who's coming from a psychic space versus coming from the Akashic, their own perceptions can cloud the message or change the message, whereas if you're coming from the Akashic, you're going to get...
You still can cloud, like depending on the person, if they start interpreting, they still can cloud.
Okay.
The difference with a psychic, because they're getting it from the entity, they have no idea which entity they're getting. They can get it from the conscious entity, like an angel,
Right.
or a demon, or some entity that just died yesterday and had no idea that they died. And they're giving advice. Something they have no idea about. So that's why I'm like, psychics.
Okay.
And you know who is a psychic and who works in the records, because the energy is much more solid and contracted with psychics, versus in the records, it's just lightness. So are we going without the break?
I think we want to take a break.
Yeah, because I think you're like a little bit fried, and I don't want you to kind of piss out on me.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take like 10-15-minute break.
Yep.
Okay. Sometimes what I found with Akashic Record, sometimes it even feels like you're drunk. One of the guidelines is not to drink alcohol or drugs before the consultation or before you take the class, at least 24 hours. And we had that actually tested. It was my daughter who decided to go to a party right before the class. And I told her, like, no drinking. She didn't drink much, but it's a party. So the first hour she was looking at me like this. And then the rest of the time, she went to sleep. Because the energy is such a high vibration, and alcohol is kind of like brings you down, that it either knocks you out completely, that your sleep makes you a little bit like off in the records, or it's hard to explain. I couldn't drink alcohol for quite a few years. It just felt uncomfortable. Now with access, I can have occasional glass of wine. And as I said, occasional glass of wine usually does not affect people, but it's like drinking too much, or like drinking to unconsciousness that interferes with Akashic Records work. Any questions before we move to a couple of exercises that Sylvia asked me to play with? No? Okay. So put everything away, make yourself comfortable.
Okay.
Can I hold my cookie? Can you use my
Well, maybe not a good idea eating while you're meditating. And just notice kind of where you're sitting. You can close your eyes and just notice where you're sitting. Kind of like, where is your mind? Where is your body? Kind of like thoughts. By now we did a little bit kind of like the prayers, and so you're not quite in a total active, normal, this reality state. But still, just notice. Do you have any thoughts running through your head? Do you have any emotions? Any body uncomfort or sensation? Just notice it without any judgment. And just allow yourself to relax. Pull the energy from the top of your head, open your crown chakra, and pull the energy of the universe through your head, through your body, through your heart, through your arms, through your body, through your legs, and let it exit through your feet, going all the way to the core of Earth. And keep pulling the energy through the body, exiting through the feet, and going to the core. Pull the energy of the core of Earth through your feet, through your body, through your heart, and let it exit through your head. And keep pulling both directions and see how they mix and swirl in your heart. See your space in the heart. See it evolving, increasing, and allow that with more energy coming in and swirling, allow it to expand like a sphere. Let it spill out and make it bigger than your body. And allow it to expand first to the size of this room, and keep pulling the energy from earth and pulling energy from heaven and mixing them in the heart, and keep expanding it. Maybe 10 kilometers now, and keep pulling the energy in and allow it to expand and swirl and mix. And keep expanding from the center of your heart out 1,000 kilometers. Make yourself as big as Earth while pulling from the core and pulling from the top. And now expand into space. And keep expanding, keep expanding, keep expanding. Allow the energy to spill out in the whole universe. Now, without contracting, bring your attention into your heart and just see that space. See if there is anybody there. See what it looks like. Can be a garden, can be just energy, could be just colors. See what colors there are. Smell if there are any smells, any sounds in your heart. And see if there is anybody there to greet you, to talk to you. Could be a person, could be a light, could be an animal. Don't have any judgments about what or who there is. Or if there is nobody, that's fine too. Then just allow yourself to relax and just sit down. Just see yourself in the space of heart. See if you get any messages, any questions, any information that might be relevant to you. You can ask any questions. And allow yourself to receive information without judgment. Just be present with what is. And allow yourself to be present. If there is anybody there that gave you information, thank them for the information received. If there is any gift for you today that they're willing to give you, ask them what that gift is and what it means if they gave you a gift. And then say goodbye and just allow yourself to come back to the room and open your eyes. How are you doing?
That's good.
Anybody saw anything and anybody would like to share? Usually we write this down because this is a preparation. This is kind of like getting you started playing in the record energy. Yeah.
I don't have a question.
Anybody would like to share what they saw? Anybody online? Or you're a little bit kind of like,
When you said, is there anybody there? I saw my son, Cody was there. I recognized him and then I saw him like an old man.
Yeah.
Very old man. So,
yeah, sometimes they show the images of somebody you know, so you're more comfortable with them. It's not necessarily that's the person. How do you feel? how your body feels. The idea working or playing with the records is being present. This is about learning to be present with everything, with your body, with your feelings, emotions, and then eventually they'll start subsiding because the idea is functioning at the level of the Akashic field, of infinite possibilities without emotions, thoughts, and feelings, which is a lower vibration. Because in the records, there are no thoughts, feelings, and emotions. They're just being. You're just being there. Did you notice, did you have any thoughts when you were in your heart?
No, I'm just enjoying the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how present were you in the heart?
I felt really present.
Yeah.
I did.
Exactly. That's the idea. The idea is to learn to function in the records every day, every second.
Beautiful.
And the more you practice, the more you open the records, the more you don't need the prayer to open the records. The more you will be permanently there. And yes, even after 22 years, I like to use the prayer just to get me a little bit like in there.
Is it okay
Closer, and is it working?
Yeah. Is it okay to open the prayer for the day?
Yeah.
And just go on with your day?
The only thing it's not recommended to drive with the records open or operate any heavy machinery because you are like drunk. You're in the altered state of consciousness. Believe me, I've done it and I hit the curb. I kind of like was going in the wrong not wrong way, but in the wrong direction. I would get lost. Not pleasant. So saying that, there are people who open the records and at work, when they get to work, for the 8 hours of work, they would have their records open. And then they, before they drive, they close them, come home, and then maybe open again. It helps them a lot with everyday tasks. Also, that space is very healing. It also heals a lot of medical issues. Or it can, I would say. It doesn't, it can, if people choose.
I had back pain right up until I took my third breath. I had back pain up until the third breath, and I let go of everything, and like I've had it all day the last month or two actually.
Yeah, but right now
it's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah. How cool is that? And I've had people, I had a girl fell down from the bus, last couple of steps. And actually she did the body process, but it didn't help. And she was holding coins and saying the prayers about 10 minutes. No bruises, no nothing, and no pain. Pain disappeared. So it is magical. And it does not work for everybody. It's again back to the choice and free will. If you use it and you play with it and a big and or but, no expectations. As no expectations. As soon as we have any expectations, as soon as we get like, oh, this will work for me, guess what? Zip, not working. It's about playing in the energy. It's about having fun with that. Be open to receiving. This is probably the first time that I started receiving in my life 22 years ago. I had barriers, unbelievable. But that was the first time when they started falling off. And granted that when I closed. And 22 years ago, it was much harder to get into the records. The more people work in the records, the more it opens up to everybody else. Because it was closed for 2,000 years.
Really?
Yeah, because because people abuse records. All those stories, fairy tales, when people use magic to kill and do evil things, that's true. So that's why it was closed off with a veil, and only few people could go into the records, like prophets, and get the information from there. About 150 years ago, it started changing. People are ready.
I just had a deja vu.
Uh-huh.
What is that?
What kind of deja vu?
That, no, just what you said.
Uh-huh.
I've heard it before.
Yeah, because you probably did.
Oh, okay.
Because this is not linear.
Right, that's right.
Because you might have jumped into the future, came back here, and you heard it. And
Okay. Okay.
because we are not quite in the records, but the records are open. So we are in the field of records. I open the records of the class before I
It's
do.
just so the people online can hear you.
Oh,
That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you repeat that for them? Because, yeah, the microphone is not for me to hear you. I can hear you well. But there.
Right, got it.
Yeah. So this is whenever Akashic Records class is facilitated or taught, I don't teach it. Masters do. I call them masters, but it's just fun name, I think. I don't look at up to them as a masters. They're just like, they're masters of Akashic Records. They know them. But it's, they are the one actually moving the energy and allowing, kind of like giving the information what needed in this moment. It was funny when I was at my old school, there was a conference, it was about probably 20 years, maybe less. And Ed Comney, who started Grace Points, and he was giving a workshop on advanced Grace Points. It was a full day workshop. It was on the power, the 13 points. He had a folder with all the information in there. And we were waiting when he would give us. And we're like, Ed, can we have that now? He's like, nope, not yet. And we're like, okay, when? But masters will tell me. And he would do the exercises, he would talk, he would do everything. But the folder we didn't get until lunch. And I was like, come on, give us a folder. We can. No, not yet. So it's about the flow, what needed in the moment, and being present with that. Because a lot of times we are so impatient. They're like, why is it not happening now? And the universe has its own timing, though time is not real. But yet there is some flow to it that takes physical time or some space in this reality that, like you said, it took 10 or 15 years for you to write a book.
Right.
That's exactly the example. And they're like, okay, come on, do it.
Exactly. And another time I was on a layover, I'm a flight attendant, and I was on a layover in Japan, and I was feeling very, even though I was with all my crew members, I felt alone. I said, where's my life going, right? Like, what am I doing here? And I was having a moment, a bad moment. And so I ended up going home early, and then the next day a friend of mine said, well, there's a beautiful waterfall behind this little church. Why don't we go there and meditate? I'm going, yeah, right, meditate, sure, whatever. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go there and be quiet, and maybe the stillness will be good for me. And I had no expectations, because I never get any information from meditating, or very precious little. Well, sure enough, I sat there and I just totally emptied out my mind. And I said, I don't know, I guess maybe part of me says, okay, whatever. I'm relinquishing my control.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And no sooner had I done that, that I saw this eye in the sky, and it was like a bright pink eye, and it's looking at me, and I'm right, and it said, "We're going to heal you. You need healing." And my spine was broken all the way down my, especially the lower part of my spine. It was really broken. It was just, it wasn't a nice straight line that it should be. And I could hear it. It was also bright pink. And it was, and I could see it correcting itself. And it was just going, tink, tink, and making all these little corrections to my, and I didn't know. And then I opened my eyes after that. I had taken this big breath, and I was crying, like not sobbing, but I had tears. And my girlfriend looked at me and she says, "What happened? Something happened. What did you release?" Right? What happened? But I didn't really know because I wasn't privy to all that stuff. But then, and after that, that's when things started lifting off a little better. Yeah, just, So what's all that? Is that part of?
It's kind of like where you can, it's probably part of it. It's probably maybe being in the records and them healing you.
Yeah, it was very, like, it was.
It's because pretty much everything is Akashic field. Even our physical reality is part of the Akashic field.
Right.
So there is no separation.
Okay.
We are the ones separating from it.
Right. There we go. That's true. Yeah.
So the prayer is actually the vibrational frequency to drop our barriers.
Yeah.
Because it's our home.
No, you're right. Yeah.
That space.
And I guess it comes down to having some faith in your home.
Not really.
No.
No, that's actually one thing that I like about Access and Akashic Records. You don't have to have faith.
Okay.
It's about actually being there.
Right. But faith in that there's something better, no? Not necessarily?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because it's not about believing in something, it's actually being it.
Okay. Got
because when you're experiencing and being it,
right.
You don't have to believe in it, it's just
It
there.
is. It is.
It is what it is.
Okay, I got it.
It's just like this chair is solid.
Right.
You know it's there. Same thing, you know the Akashic Records there.
Okay. Interesting.
Because that's why I probably didn't go to a lot of other modalities where you have to believe and you have to kind of like imagine, and it's like, no, I don't want to imagine, I don't want to believe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of like feel and touch and be that.
Right.
And that's why a lot of times I say, don't believe me. If it works for you, fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Actually, in both classes, Access or Akashic Records. If the tools work, fine. If they don't, not for you. Try something else.
Right. Okay. I'm glad I came.
Thank you. Yeah.
Learning a lot.
So then is the Akashic Records that of souls, or is it
It is
more than that?
More than that. It's much more than that. There are records of the soul, and I kind of didn't want to talk about it.
Question
But
got
I
asked.
guess, yeah. In Access, did everybody took foundation here?
Like, does anyone know what access is?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
there's some people don't know it.
Yeah, but soul is kind of like a little bit of a construct. And if you get rid of the soul, a lot of times the records become like that area becomes blank. But you still can create things in there. No, I think, no, erase that. It's records of the soul is part of the records. But there is also records of the universe.
Okay.
There is a history of the world. There is also energies in the Akashic field. Reiki is part of it. Reiki is part of Akashic field. It's a vibrational frequency. Access body processes are from there. Symphony energy. Theta healing works in that Akashic field. area too. So it's much more than just records of the soul. It's just like thinking of, as I said, Library of Congress, but it's not just like think of the whole world, and library is just part of it. Those books are just part of it.
Yeah, so that means it would be more than even just this world. It would be multiple dimensions,
Multiple
time,
dimensions,
spaces,
times. I've looked at the
universes, like
yeah.
expansive.
expensive, and we
Everything.
still like. I've been working for 22 years. I've never seen even close to like, not even a limit. But I think I just touched a drop.
And then plants and animals, like everything.
Everything. And we actually learn how to open the records of animals, records of businesses, records of planets.
Oh, cool.
That's level 2 though. That's advanced.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, and we also work with pendulum, kind of like clear. It's not asking, it's about clearing energy with a pendulum. Clearing entities, clearing a lot of stuff, clearing houses. We talk a lot about clearings, clearing spaces with different tools. So it's a lot of information.
And that's all available online.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, the
I
classes
just
have to be
asked if
live.
it's all available online.
Yeah, the classes are pretty much so it's 2 days and 2 days. Basic is 2 days class where you learn just how to use the tools, and then advanced is another 2 days. Sometimes they are offered together, sometimes they're separated by time or space or place. It's always open online as a live class, not as a recording. So you have to be in the real time present because it's not quite online because you're literally energetically present. And every class is offered online. The next one is in English will be with translation into Hebrew, but I think it will be simultaneous, so you would not even hear it. From Israel time 9 till 3, our time either 6 to midnight or 7 to 1 in the evening. I've done a class where our time was 7 to 1 and their class was 7 in the morning to 1. That was class in Russia.
I just want one question. Did you say, so Judy says, did Helen say clearing with the use of a pendulum?
Yeah, in level 2, we use pendulum to clear a lot of stuff. And a lot of times the pendulum will go clockwise, counterclock to clear, clockwise to increase the energy. And we use the pendulum with the prayers, with the grace points. Kind of like you use all the tools separate together. You can use them in the records, outside the records. As you could see, we use a prayer here, grace points, without even opening the record.
So if a group wanted to organize attending your classes, what numbers would make it viable for you to come here if you desired to?
I would say at least 12 people.
And the cost?
And the cost, the basic is $400 at this moment. I think the prices will go up after the first of the year, or maybe even before that. And 500 for advanced. If you take them together and pay, I think like a couple of weeks before, there is a discount of $825 together instead of $900.
So when you come back.
When you organize everything.
When you organize the class.
I'm not an organizer. Just saying, I can't even organize myself.
And those classes usually does not require like
Any prerequisites?
no, except for the advanced basics. Yeah, and there is of course a track to be a facilitator and certified.
You said it's a four days for both, right?
For both, yeah. But if you want to be, this is just gives you a practitioner title. If you want to be certified practitioner, you have to do that plus 72 consultations and do consultation for a couple of teachers. There is a little bit more involved in certification process than for teacher. It's a little bit more involved. So it's done. Yeah, I think I might have a couple of new teachers by the end of the year in Russia. Because they're like, hey, where are the people taking twice a couple of classes and going there live classes. The school is growing.
Is it $400 Canadian or US?
US.
US.
Okay, well,
Yeah. Sorry, and there is no country discount at this moment.
Okay.
Though there is a repeat price, half price, if people took it. That's why for the teachers it's a little easier to get there.
Right.
Any other questions?
that was a comment, sorry. Inside.
Yeah, I like my inside voice too. Any other questions over there?
Not right now. She just said taken both together, but you had said that it's either separate. They're both separate classes.
They're both separate classes, but advanced requires the basic. You cannot take advanced without the basic because you need to know kind of like the tools. Yeah, it's just like you cannot take body class without foundation.
Right.
Yeah. And the energy is much higher at advanced than the basic. And what's interesting, those are shorter classes. They're 6-hour classes. And believe me, it's in Israel last year, they scheduled it for 8 classes without asking me. I think I said it was 6-hour classes. So Sharona was, but we've done 4 days of foundation. And it was only 2. It was basic, only basic. So we started at 9 o'clock. At about 2:45, they were looking at me. Like, I think we're done. She's like, now I get what you're saying.
So if you were to look into the records, what date would you say that you'd be coming back?
Great question.
Not in the winter.
Did they really say that?
Did I actually say that? Or did I think, or did my thoughts came out? So, yeah, we can take a look.
Yeah.
And listen, it's easy to do online, as you can see.
You just have to be present.
Huh?
Just have to be present.
You have to be present. And the idea is actually sitting by the computer and being present, because I have one girl that she took the first day, and then the second day she fell down. So it was interesting because we started working together to start the healing. She was feeling better, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, somebody at the door."
That's why I prefer class setting because you don't have that.
Yeah.
That's why I personally prefer class setting because I tend to be distracted by
It's
things in
about
my home and I'm up and down and looking for this. Oh
no, it's actually you're setting up the time to be present, like you're in the classroom. like we did with Regina. They had, I think, 8 or 10 people in the room, and I had a few people in Chicago, and I think a couple of people were on Zoom somewhere else, and we did a class, and it was, you can definitely, it was wonderful.
So 12 would be not only, it doesn't have to be present in the room, it has like 12 signed up. Wow. Not
No,
more
present.
possibility.
No,
Present.
Present.
Okay, present.
Present for me.
Online or in person?
No, she's me.
I mean present in the room.
In the room. Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can have more people online.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I think that you're done. Well done. By the way, drive safely. I mean that you're in an altered state of consciousness.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you.
Mhm.
So you might take some food, sugar, salt, water, just to kind of like being present in your body. Because you're like way out there. Mhm. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have my cookie now?
Thanks, Helen.
Thank you. Let me see them for a second. Hi.
Awesome.